Hello there. Today is April 2nd, and we're going to be covering the third page of the nonverbal communication handout. As you can see, it is a beautiful morning outside. Sky's blue, wind's blowing, the birds are chirping. The last thing that any of us want to be doing is being isolated, but as you can see, I'm on the third floor and I am isolated. This is the only outdoors that I get. About 10 feet of balcony. So, as we are continuing on the portion titled Movement and Gestures, it should come as no surprise that the movement of any part of the body that reinforces another message or acts as a substitute for speech is known as gestures. And these gestures have a variance of meanings across different cultures. So, some examples would be the thumbs up sign. If someone asks you a question, letting them know that you're responding in the affirmative. You can also let people know all is well with the OK sign or similar gestures such as that. The thumbs down would be the opposite. You're responding in the negative to a query or to a question or to let people know how you're feeling. And so if someone were to ask us, how do we feel about the current situation, most of us are probably going to do a thumbs down. We don't like being away from our family. We don't like being away from our friends. We don't like to do things that keep us separated, so not getting to go to movies, not getting to go out to eat. Those are all things that we would give a thumbs down to. Gestures also tend to be very cultural in nature, and so in some places the OK sign might not stand for OK, just sort of like the example that we used in class 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe later than that, was fish and chips. Chips mean something completely different here than it does in Europe. The same thing for gestures. And so you want to be aware if you are communicating in a setting that involves multiple different cultures or countries that you're not sending inappropriate messages. One of the most noticeable and important aspects of nonverbal communication is facial expression or facial communication. And it can display a wider range of Alright, so like I said, it is windy. Sorry about that. The wind picked up and blew my phone over. It can display a wider range of emotions more accurately and immediately than any other form of body communication or body talk. The reason why is because it's very, very hard for us to hide what we're feeling because our emotions and our thoughts reside right in our face. When someone's upset, when someone is angry, when someone's sad, or even when they're happy, it's hard to hide those things on our face. And so that's why it's very important. Some specific ways that we use our face to communicate is how people use eyes to make contact with others in order to maintain and regulate social interaction, to provide space or distance. This is known as eye communication. And sorry, my finger's in the way. Oftentimes, if a parent or a teacher looks at you in a certain way, then you know exactly what they want and they don't actually have to say a word. And this is a great way, a great example of communication via the eyes. The same thing happens if you're saying something and a sibling looks at you to tell you to be quiet in order to shut you up before you get each other in trouble. Although opinions do vary about the importance of direct eye contact, with some saying direct eye contact is a sign of honesty or credibility. On the flip side, as with all things, there's an opposing view that people who are lying to you are going to try to look you in the eyes and see if their lie is landing, if you're actually believing their lie. And so it's probably going to be one of those things that's just different with all types of different people. Some people that lie will look away from you. Some people that lie will look you right in the face and see if you're actually buying it. And really, it just comes down to you knowing the person that you're talking to and knowing how they normally act. All right. In addition to eye contact, it's important to pay attention to our use of space as we communicate, both personally and professionally. Environmental cues include the way that we use space, distance, and territoriality, and communicates messages about you and your relationships. Our perception and use of space is known as spatial communication. And I think we've actually talked about this in class, but we're just going to quickly go over it. It involves several different areas. Our intimate space is from 18 inches out from our body. Its communication in this range tends to be very personal. It's going to be reserved for your close friends or for your romantic partners, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, or your husband. Our personal space is also known as our bubble, is 18 inches up to 4 feet away. And it's typically allowed for friends, family members, and some co-workers to enter this personal space comfortably. That's why when you're walking down the hallway, it gets a little bit uncomfortable if you don't know the person walking right next to you, and it's much easier whenever it's someone that you know. If you're paying attention, nobody should be entering your personal space or your intimate space at this time. We're being instructed to keep 6 feet away from others, and so that will keep them outside of these distances, especially if we're isolating and they are not. A great way to figure this out is if you find some normal-sized tiles like we have in the classroom, and 6 of those would be 6 feet away. The next grouping of distance is known as social, and it extends from 4 out to 12 feet. This is going to be when you are first starting to see the best results in terms of isolation and keeping people away from you. In normal circumstances, this is the most appropriate distance for interpersonal communication and small group interactions in professional and social contexts. So you want to keep a nice distance away so people can be comfortable. Finally, we have the public distance, which is 12 to 25 feet. And this is really how far I want people back most of the time, but especially during this period of isolation. It's used in formal presentations. We want to make sure that when speaking to an audience that we don't know, that we give them room to breathe. People may identify space as their territory. They claim it, they protect it, and as their own. Another thing that we need to quickly touch on is touch. In recent years, rules and norms regarding touch have shifted towards don't touch ever, which is the best advice that I can give you. Touching can be considered harassment and intimidation and can cause serious emotional and legal issues. And so the best advice that you can have is to just not go there. Time communication is also crucial. How you use time sends strong message about you, your perceptions of others, and your relationships with them, and your attitude about responsibilities. So I try to keep these videos short for the most part because I don't want to waste your bandwidth and I don't want to waste your time. So that sends a message about how I view you and how I view my responsibility towards you. As with all things we've discussed, it's important to let your words stand and matter. You shouldn't change things based on how it negatively impacts your time unless it's an emergency. For instance, don't tell someone that you're going to meet them at 5 p.m. and then as the time rolls around, decide that you're going to change your mind and send them a message canceling. The last little bit of the handout is articles. Articles are the artifacts. Artifacts are the articles of adornment that we use to decorate ourselves or our surroundings. If you think back to my classroom, I have quite a few of these. Maybe you've noticed the John Wayne figure in the back of the classroom. That reminds me of my grandpa. I have pictures that remind me of people that are special to me, whether it be people from church, whether it be my family, whether it be my debate team. I also have different artifacts that show you the different things that interest me and that matter to me. I have Mjolnir, I have Captain America's shield, I have the helmet from Master Chief of Halo. And so these objects are all the materials that we keep in our space or that we take with us. Some other things that you want to be aware of is that color is often associated with certain meanings or feelings. It's commonly thought in political circles that color has specific meaning, and so blue stands for calm, reassurance, putting aside your differences, whereas red is thought to be a power color. It stands for taking charge. If you notice, the President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, tends to really love red power ties. There's a reason for that. He loves to project power, and the color of his tie is one the way that he does that. In addition, it's important to pay attention to our fragrance or our odor. The sense of smell is believed to provide the most direct link to emotion, to the emotion center of the brain. This is why females tend to like to wear the jackets of their boyfriends or husbands. Smells can really bring our memories to life, and it's a very, very powerful thing, which is why you want to make sure that you're always properly cleaned and groomed before communicating in public. All right, now moving on to the alternative assignment. It's going to be easy. I want you to use those article links that you sent me a couple of days ago. Remember, one is for the state and one is for national, and I want you to write me a position paper. When I say paper, I want you to think back along those two papers, those two handouts that we've had so far. Neither of these papers should take more than half of a page. You are going to identify what they are trying to get across. And I specifically want you to ask, is it trying to get us to hope? Is it trying to give us information to help us? Or is it trying to scare us? The big thing is to include textual proof for the claims that you're making. So you have to find evidence inside of the article to back up your claim about the intent of the paper as it's written. Remember, you do have to tell me the title of the article. You do need to tell me where it came from. You do need to tell me the author. You do need to give me the intent of the article and then provide proof. Once you get done with that, email those to me, or better yet, share it with me on Google. I want to thank everyone who's been working so hard. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your hard work and your diligence. It means a lot to me. I love you guys. Stay safe.